I started these videos to talk about education and history and our story, the story of really Western civilization. And I've talked about education before, but education's not any good if we're not really educating. It appears that a large number of educators are perfectly happy to issue diplomas to people who can't read, write, or do mathematics, or cannot reason. And their excuse for that is it makes everything more equitable. But my question is how dumb do we want to be? How dumb do we want to get? And the answer appears to be as much as far down that well as we can go. Just recently, the governor of the state of Oregon signed a law that basically did away with high school graduates having to show competence in reading, writing, and math. And the excuse for that was it would be better for basically people of color, which to me, that would be a tremendous insult to if I were a quote-unquote person of color, because that's saying that I don't have the capability of learning. And I remember when I was a teenager, the students that went to Little Rock Central, and that was a huge thing. I mean, President Eisenhower called in the military to enforce that Supreme Court decree, and it was nasty. But I remember reading the stories of several of those students, and what they were out to prove was they were more than competent to take part in the school at Little Rock Central, which at that time was considered a good high school. So now we have this thing like in England, of all places, and they're trying to do away with like the study of Shakespeare or Adam Smith or David Hume, or do away with Winston Churchill. And the excuse given that now it's that they were white. Well, England was primarily a white country and still is for the most of its history. So the bulk of its thinkers and writers were of that skin tone. So my thinking on this is that a lot of educators don't want to take the time or the trouble to actually teach. And that's work, is to get your students interested and to teach them a subject. And if I recently saw a deal where some people were against teaching algebra, and they would wanted people to learn how to balance a checkbook and so forth and so on. Well, algebra was hard for me, but one of the things algebra does is it teaches you to think logically and to analyze, and you do all those other things if you can do pardon me, algebra well, then you can do just about all the other things in math well, and it's a foundation for the rest. But there's a movie, I'm sure many people have seen it, called Idiocracy, and I don't want to go into that whole story, but it seems like we're well on the road to that. So I guess this is in response to a lot of that is parents, and parents seem to finally be fighting back because and they're holding educators and school boards responsible for this, and it's going to take a long struggle because we've been going down this road a good while, and does not do any of us any good if we can't think. And if we can't think logically, we did not get here because of holding no one accountable. And we came to a good place because we held people accountable and used meritocracy. I'm not saying there hasn't been favoritism or corruption, or that's the human condition, unfortunately. But by and large, in Western civilization, through fighting and struggle and so forth, we've gotten to a good point. Now it seems like we're intentionally trying to commit suicide. And I don't know why that is. I know we'll come out of that, whether to the good or to the bad, I don't know. But I'm a big fan of reading and thinking and using what little good sense that we're given, because otherwise we end up in a bad place. And one last quick point. Western civilization, after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, took roughly 1,000 years to recover from that. And only after we rediscovered what we had lost. And it had never gone away. It was there, but finally people started looking at it and seeing it and taking advantage of it and so forth. So, Shakespeare's not hard. If you read a King James Bible, it's written in Shakespearean language. It is not that difficult if you just pay attention. And that's what it takes to do anything, is to pay attention. I once worked with a man who was very proud of the fact that he didn't read books. And he was a good salesman and did very well, and I liked the guy and the whole thing. But he couldn't think his way out of a box. But he could sell his product. But that product was there, and I won't get into what it was, because someone had taken the time and the effort to think through to what good that product could do and so forth. And this man had learned how to sell that and how to get past objections and so forth. But if that product had gone away, and it really, come to think of it, it kind of has, and I don't know what happened to him, and I don't know if he had adjusted or not, but that's what education is. It teaches you to think and to use your brain and to adjust when things change. So do that. And get after your school boards, get after your kids, look at what they're learning or not learning, and make sure they do. Because being dumb is not a good road to go down. You have a very good day.